Just a room. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. Bueno, mi gente, as always, muchísimas gracias for you guys' words, prayers, and your amazing support. I also want to thank you guys for a great live tonight. It's always real humbling to at least have a couple back and forth palabras within seconds instead of waiting on a comment and replying. And for that opportunity, I thank you all. Now, to get into the story in hand, today I want to touch on, what a lot of older homies from your same neighborhood do, which is utilize that, put up that smoke screen and play on that, right? To get to what they want. But in this one, I want to talk about the Pili, the Señor, the Carnal, however you want to address them, right? Indio from Sereno, and a good camarada that I had the pleasure of knowing that at the end ended up finding out what that exactly means, which is once you play in that game and you reach that pedestal, all that's my older homeboy, that's my big homie, that's out the window. That's a myth. That's something they use again to mislead and grab a hold of you in some sense, right? But anyway, as you guys know, this time I'm into Tehachapi, and the homie was there, or he had gotten there from Calipat under that little misunderstanding that they were having with the paisanos, which that little misunderstanding led to Fernie, the homie, being asked to take control of the yard for Indio, to plant his flag. So, of course, not only is he his homeboy, but he's doing it for what he feels is right, which is represent his homeboy to the fullest, right? Which those that have true love for their neighborhood should always be about, defending a homie's pride. Like me, I grew up, one of my homeboys did not ever need to be present, but in my presence, you spoke bad or anything, it was like if he was there, right? Because that's part of being loyal, at least in my book. I could be wrong, but it's the way I used to always see it. Loyalty a person don't have to be present to do so. But anyways, at this time, we're not validated. We're going out to the same concrete yard and work out, be able to have a little torica back and forth with each other. And he starts telling me how it started off. He wasn't involved in the initial problem with Medina. His thing came afterwards, where there was a lot of wiggling on the yard. Right, there were certain people assigned to the yard for certain pilis, and at the same time they were having conflicts with the paisanos. So at this time, the paisano that's there is this one paisa that he was there for killing two homies from El Monte, cause that's where he grew up in, right? He's and he moved a lot of Hale, and I guess somehow, some way, he got into it with the paisa, with the homies. What got into it with the paisano in El Monte, and they ended up getting the losing end of that stick, right? It's why he's busted, and due to his flexibility to bring Hale to the table in Feria, it was looked aside. It was never fully addressed the way it should have been addressed, right? But anyways, that's not here or there. I guess when Fernie tried to take over the yard, there was pushback from the Vatos, even though they were doing their thing wrong, they still weren't willing to give it up. Which in reality, that's what you're supposed to. That's what a lot of people gotta understand. When you get into politics, it's a service. It's not just representing somebody on the yard, but it's a service you're not to give up. It's a service that ain't nobody can come take from you. Cause that just reflects, well, at this time, to the carnales back there, right? How strong of an arm, of a reach they have with you on the yard. So, they pushed back and they went to war. They all caught shoes. Well, most of them. Fernie was one of them. He caught a shoe for, you know, for mutual combat with a weapon and other issues. And as we're speaking, he's telling me that the main instigator was this Paisa. Now, at this time, we weren't united as things are now. There were still divisions, so of course I questioned it and I asked, hey, pero, besides the point, when it came to mesa business, a paisano cannot dictate. Now it's different, right? I'm not gonna say it's like this still, because now there's paisanos on the mesa, and of course they have a say so. But at this time there was none, and that's something that he asked himself. But nevertheless, like I said, he had me by some years. To be exact, I couldn't tell you, but he was older, right? I was still a mocoso, you could say, at this time and all. But nevertheless, always carry myself with respect, so I tend to lean more with older camaradas. So we were there for a little bit, and I ended up catching the bus to Corcoran, and I guess within time, Fernie left to zadf, and when he got there right away, he was being asked to take over the yard for Indio, and he did so. He did so with again with honor and pleasure, right? It's not only a senor, but as his homeboy. So he was on there doing his thing for Indio, and everything was cool. I guess the problem started uprising when Jaime hit the yard, which is the paisano, right? And he had a lot of say so when it came to certain business that had to be done on the yard. He wanted to call the cuetazos, which is fine and dandy, but when it's being requested for who has that yard, again, it's a service that you're not permitted to put down or let down. You're to uphold that service unless you're told to by who you're holding that to from, right? And things didn't work out that way. Fernie ended up moving on the paisano, and since he knew the paisano had strings attached to certain individuals, he decided to go ahead and do it himself, which it was nothing like the homie went and dealt with it. Nah, it was a respect thing, which is, I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me. It has nothing to do with the yard, just me and you. Next unlock, meet in the middle of the soccer field and shoot up, boot up, and mambo, pegale. And they did their thing. At this time, the squad already had Fern in his sights for the tail he was dragging through where he's been at for Indio. Of course, there's a lot of people snitching, a lot of things getting intercepted. It was part of, everything had to reach the shoe, and between where you were at and then you had to make one appeal, and that one appeal you had to make 3-4 copies of it because you were aware 2-3 of them were going to get caught. It was just part of the program at this time, right? So Fern ended up getting validated. I'm no mean to fast forward my story, but it's when we seen we seen each other again, which was in B Yard in Corcoran. Every time we weren't in the same building. I was in 3 right, and he was in 4 left, I believe. But anyways, we seen each other when we went out to medical or different angles. Again, the camarada, if you actually held a conversation with him, he wasn't a high power dude. He was a real down to earth camarada. Even though he was older, you were able to, discuss different angles of life that didn't have to do with just politics or él dijo, ella dijo BS in there, right? Which is the most common conversations that happen in there. And again, he was holding his ground for his homeboy. Like I seen a lot of comments, especially on the bat one. That's my that's my big homie. Okay, you're this, and that. You know, pay attention to the smoke screen they put out. All that myth that as a campolero we believe when they're there, they're still favoring their barrio, where they come from. Yeah, they might get on your ear and tell you, but when push comes to shove, it's all a misled lie to get you to do what they want and need. Anyways, things unfolded. The paisa ended up, he didn't get validated, after that little incident with Fernie. He ended up going to AR everything was cool, When we were in Corcoran, they were in their corner and everything was squashed. Within time, I ended up getting the bus to Pelican Bay, and a little bit after, Fern followed due to a jale he had to do for the mesa in Corcoran, and he ended up catching up, and I don't know what Jaime did on a yard, but he ended up catching a longer shoe term, and he ended up there too. And the minute Jaime landed, it was real noticeable that Fernie was worried. It went from that's my homie, he's gonna always take care of me. I known him since kid because we're the same age, you know. We started running together on the street, the mocosos, and of course he's gonna take care of me too. Man, homie, I don't know what Billy Indio's thinking. It wasn't no more my homeboy, it was a Billy Indio, right? The whole if when you're in prison and you're in these surroundings, you tend to pay attention to the palabras that are being expressed because they speak for themselves. You know, they could tell you misa, el Padre Nuestro and everything, but if you really pay attention, the way they stress things or flip flop and change things, then you know something's up. You're to be on your toes when it comes to everything in there. So we were aware that he had some type of worriness, and what had happened was that Jaime started pressing the issue with Indio that he wanted Fernie gone. Of course, Fernie has done nothing wrong but represent his homeboy, his Billy. But he lost sight out of that smoke screen. You know, I include myself. We're back there in the shoe and we're the smart ass campoleros, ready to, you know, eat and chew and spit out other, thinking we're above the cut, when in reality we're the weakest. I think the smarter individual is the one that goes up in there, puts some looks on and does his program and say, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with these individuals. Dumb ones are like me that go up in there thinking that you could do and do and do and do and earn your points with them, taking the finger off the fact that the only thing that counts is that food for the vena and or that feria to move Jale around to get for the vena. All that. He's my homeboy. I grew up with him since childhood. He became a big homie, but he still loves me. You know, that's nothing when it comes to them getting high or getting feria. All that is childish. It's done and over with. It's a myth. Cause Jaime was also touching other Billy's pockets because he knew how to play his cards. I'll just say it like this. I want to do a story more on Jaime, but he actually, before we were united as one, he got a lot of homies crossed up. I'm talking about solid homies, just for the fact that even up in Pelican Bay, how he did it, don't know. But since like a month after he got there, he was already hitting Negra, and that's all that mattered. That's all they wanted to hear. Hey, shoot your line. Ahí te van dos, tres papelitos. Pa' que se despierte bien. That's all they cared. After a while, just then a mobile started circling around with Ferdinand's name on it. And nobody could say anything because it was signed by not the pointer was Indio, Fernie's Billy, the one he didn't catch life for him, but then the day he caught life for his neighborhood. The one that I'm sure did a lot of hollers together as kids, and at one point, hey, ¿cómo estás? I love you, homie. So we gotta watch out for them 4 letters. Them I love you in prison. To me, is especially when you're up there and we're mixing with these people. It's let me in, let me get close to you in case I gotta cut your jugular. It's just facts, right? And anyways, Fern never went through the TSU. He never went, at least in the time I was there. Before I take off to the feds, he stayed behind there. He was on the no good status, but regardless, he was there. He wasn't speaking with them guys. And a couple times in visiting, I seen the paisa look at Fern's way and just make fun of him with no words, but he knew exactly what he was doing. And I think it's a shame that, you know, we grew up believing in a causa. We're lied, misled. We tend to give our lives to go sit down and really, you know, go through the heartaches for some other individuals that never done nothing, that ain't about nothing. No, they have the power over these guys just because they're able to put something in a jeringa for them. Just really sit down and analyze things. When you see these power struggles, these wars, is it behind somebody snitching? Is it behind a rapist not having to get dealt with? No, that's done on the spot, right? It's always about them worrying about power, wanting to have the bag, money wise, dope wise, and thinking they're as big as being able to punk them at others. See, I include myself. We lose sight of the fact that we're grown ass man in there, and we have another grown ass man telling us, telling us, hazlo o ahí te voy. Whatever you done, all it takes is for me to send an appeal out and say you're basura. You know, really analyze how things are. I mean, in the fact that Indio, the Pili, couldn't be loyal to somebody his age, somebody he got jumped into his neighborhood with, ran the streets with, did everything right, but somebody came with a bag here and there for his vena. I don't know you no more. Me and you were never nothing. I'm EME. Sereno ain't on my first priority no more. You get what I'm trying to say? And I'm not saying all older homies are like this. Of course not. There's good older homies that give you the good plecha that try to not have you go down that path. But that's why you gotta learn how to really read into them. You know, blow through that smoke screen and not be one of the ones that's myself that got used and used and used into what? In my case, till they touch something that I always try to protect in the sense that I try to separate things. But I was a dumb one there, so I can't even blame them for it, right? I brought who I shouldn't have brought into what I was doing. It's part of my stupidity, I guess. You know, everyone, I always come on here and say, really save yourself from the heartaches. You know, I want to tell you guys a little short story. I had told it already in the other thing. But you know, it's one thing being in prison, having to pull jales. There's nothing to it, you know. To go pull a mission, to do anything in violence. Problem starts with you trying to deal with the gatos and their personalities, and you having to become a chameleon and and blend into their characters to their liking. Why? Because you know what's gonna happen. You can't show weakness. Just a quick scenario to atrophy. You know, Judas came to my door and they told me, Alvarez, cuff up. They want to talk to you. F that, I ain't cuffing up. They want to talk to me. Come to my soul and talk to me. Minutes later, a priest comes and he goes, Alvarez, I need you to come out and make a phone call for me or for yourself. So next door I had two pilis and they told me, hey, go out there and check it out. So I go out there and my brother had an accident and my oldest son tried to jump out in a truck or car. I don't know. I can't really remember. Hit him, right? And took my oldest son and dragged him. And I think the whole block underneath the car. Thank you God he survived. But on the spot, my carnal and my youngest son, they passed on. So what could I do? Look at the priest and at this time I had an open war with God. And he tells me like, you know, pray for them. Pray for them. This was his doings. I'm gonna pray for nobody. Take me back to myself. Of course, I was stupid, naive, dumb, right? And I went back to my cell and I told the Peelies and the only comfort that came from them is life happens, tough up, program. And I couldn't show that weakness, right? Because that's an open invitation for, or you're taking a spot. So you don't even be given that respect, because all they teach you is la clica, la causa comes before anything. You show weakness for anything outside of that. It might not be today, it might not be a week, a month, but you can make it sure it's gonna follow you. So don't put yourself in that spot. I always say this and I say it because I mean it, analyze it. I say it with words that to some might be like, oh, this weenie. But sit down and analyze what I'm trying to say. Really look at it from every angle. Love yourself. Be true to yourself. At the end of the day, ain't nobody gonna suffer with you but yourself. Look at this idiot. There is no rule on the end of that tunnel. It's nothing but lies, misled. So stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. My love to everybody. Muy buenas noches.